Hey there. So welcome. We are on week 16 in the Chakra Wisdom Oracle Toolkit journey. And we're not only on week 16, we're also on the yellow cards. So we are celebrating moving from the emotions of orange and that second chakra into our third chakra, which is the thought process and the planning. Now, why do I say that? I'm going to yawn. Why do I say it's the thought process? Well, remember what I said about the orange cards, that in the orange cards, we're set on emotions. And so when we get into yellow, our emotions are going to determine whether we are going to make that plan, we're going to forge ahead, we're going to do it, we're going to fight for what we want, right? And we're going to make that decision. See, the third chakra, really, those cards and these cards that we're going to go through this week, these fables, are all around your thought process. And so when we look at the first card in the yellow, if you will, in the third chakra, we're looking at Milagro. This is the Spanish deck. And so here we're looking at the miracle card. Now, what's really interesting for me about this card is that when I first saw it, I thought, oh, that's interesting because it's about this town called Darkville and this tree stump lights up and, oh, she had a light. But what I didn't notice in it was the light of the woman in there. I never noticed it. I know, whatever, right? But when we think of a miracle, we think of like, oh, divine intervention. But I think we also should look at it as wishful thinking, because I think we have to be very aware of, are we being kind of like, ooh, wishful thinking? My father used to say, dance, dance, dance. But I feel, are we putting that forward, or are we saying, I really want to step into the state, the energetic state of allowing a miracle to happen? One of the things that this fable is about, and the quote from the fable is, integrity is what turns on the light. And this is about having integrity. And so when we look at that word and we look at the idea of integrity in our lives, we really have to say that are we a stand for something? And the idea is, if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. And I think maybe the quote goes, if you don't stand for something, you'll stand for anything. And I think that means, and that's the time we're living in too, that everybody has to take a stand for everything instead of just saying, that may not be my battle. And I think that the cliche of pick your battles really can begin in this third chakra, where we move from the idea of all the cards representing our emotions into all of these cards representing our thought process. And so I want you to give that some, if we step into that idea and give that some energy, we can then look at this card and say, wow, they kind of look like the daffodils. It kind of has that idea of energy coming out of a dead tree stump. So just when you think things are gone, that's when the miracle can happen. And I don't know about you, but I know in my life, the times when I thought, oh my gosh, like when the Chakra Wisdom cards, the Chakra Wisdom Oracle first came through me, I thought, oh my gosh, because I'd spent all my money and I didn't know what to do. And I just kind of dropped to my knees and I said, okay, God, show me what to do and make it a billboard so I don't miss it. And the reality is that things just unfolded before me when I took the next intended step. And sometimes we think we have to know what's next. And so the idea also is you don't know what the next step is until you take the first. In many instances, that's the case. So you have to go ahead and take that risk and step forward before you can really see what the next step is. Because there are moments that the light will only shine a few feet ahead of us. And I will share the story. Years ago, I was in my 20s, and I was with a boyfriend of mine, and we went on this biking tour. It was a 50-mile weekend. Now, if you know me, you'd go, really? Are you sure that was you? Because I'm not a biker, and I'm talking bicycle, not motorcycle, which I could probably get into a little more. But anyway, so we got to this, we were in New Hampshire, it was beautiful. I hated every minute of it, but we got to this hill, and we were probably 10 miles in on the second day. No, yeah, about 10 miles in, and we had another 15 to go. And I remember getting to the hill, and I looked up and I said, oh, and I got off my bicycle and I started pushing it, you know, just walking up the hill with it. And I was, of course, the last one. And so the one of the guides was behind me, so to make sure we were all together. And he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm not going to make it up this hill. He goes, get back on your bike. And I said, you don't understand. He said, no, get back on your bike, and I'm going to tell you how to climb this hill. And I go, okay. He said, do not look up. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, do not look up. Only look at the 3 feet in front of you. And he said, just remember, you're only pedaling 3 feet at a time. And I have to tell you, you know, it's funny how there I was where I didn't want to be, but it was the best, it was one of the best examples I ever heard, because it changed my life. It made me realize that I can handle 3 feet. But if I think of going straight up into the, I mean, when I tell you the top of the mountain was in the clouds, I'm not kidding. It was like this kind of angled. Well, it was more like this, but it was kind of this kind of angle. It was almost a 45-degree angle, and it was overwhelming. But when I got on the bike and I just looked at the 3 feet in front of me, I made it to the top, and I made it into the fog. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences for me, not for my hair, but for me. And I will say that that was one of those things that was the life changer, if you know what I mean. It was the moment when I knew that if I just looked at what was right in front of me, I could handle it. So what I'm saying to you is, when you get into the third chakra, remember that choices become very important in the third chakra and in these fables. What will you choose? Will you choose to think this miracle's coming to me, or will you step into the state of allowing a miracle to happen? And so I think that becomes important when we look at the miracle card. Okay, let's take a look. Now, obviously, you know the drill. I'm not going to read you the fable, but the fable is the name of the card. The name of the fable actually is, the card is Miracle, but the name of the fable is Sun Sparkler. And so you can see the sparkle and the swirl of the sun energy. And by the way, the sun energy is almost always kissed by God. It's almost always, when you see a sun, an aspect of the sun, it is a message of divine guidance. But here's the deal as well. You have to recognize that even divine guidance requires that you show up for it, and you get back on your bike and you just pedal 3 feet at a time. You know, waiting for a miracle is very different than taking the actions and recognizing that you are actively engaged in your life. Because what happens is you're actually then allowing the miracle to happen. And that miracle happened at the top of that hill for me, when I recognized that I actually made it and I could do it. And I think that's the thing, is that when you recognize that you can do anything for short bursts of time, then you will be ready to accept the miracles that are waiting for you, because you have to know that you can do it. Otherwise, and here's the most important part, if I didn't get back on that bike, what would happen is I would never know that this is the way I was going. This was something I could do. You see, and I would never really claim it. I would always be in the back of my mind, well, I could have done it if I wanted to. Well, now I knew I could. And what that taught me, and I think what this card and these fables are about, is they're looking at our thinking process. So how do you approach a miracle? Do you just think it happens to you, or do you think it's something that you're involved in life? All right, so let's take a look at some of the key points here that I think are very important for your week. I really love this, where it says, I can't believe sometimes I wrote it, because I go, oh, that's interesting. You know, it's funny, you know that it comes through you and not to you. When you're reading something, you go, wow, that's really good. And you didn't know you wrote it. Let's see, how appropriate that yellow shines light, that this yellow color shines light on our thoughts, whether they're hidden or known. So this is an opportunity for us to, this yellow energy, this God energy, it's going to be shining light on us and give us an opportunity to see how we are processing our thoughts and where they are taking us. And that's what I meant when I said, where are we going with the actions or the inaction that we're taking? Remember that yellow is our instinct, not intuition. It's our instinct. And it's also our intellect. So when you think about your instinct and you think about how quickly your brain will go, that's not safe. When sometimes what we do with this work is we sit back and go, gosh, I'm really thinking and feeling that this isn't safe, but I don't see any reason to think that. And then I can look at, oh, when I was little and I tried to climb a hill, I actually fell off my bike and got a scar under my chin. So you can start to look at things that are correlating to what you're trying to take on, and then you can go, oh, that's an old idea. I can do this. And I don't think this is a matter of setting yourself up to fail. I think it's setting yourself up to do the unachievable that's very achievable. So that's a good barometer to start with this particular card. Now, also I talk about, in the Tori's tip part, it says, think carefully about how you respond to the concept of miracles, which we talked about. Are you resistant, curious, secretive, or responsive? Your reaction will reveal whether you're currently open to a miracle taking place in your life. So I want you to really think about it. When I say miracle, does that lift you to a higher consciousness? Does it leave you blank? Does it leave you wondering? Whatever it does for you, that's real for you. And that's going to be your definition for today. What I'm going to invite you to do now, and you can pause this video, while we're doing this, is just go ahead and get a pen and paper and write down 3 words to you, just 3 words that represent miracle. And it can be any 3 words, whatever that looks like for you. Just go ahead and write them down and just allow them to come through you, and just ask that the white light of God energy comes through you and just gives you that simple message, those 3 words. And I'm going to continue on, and we'll come back to that before we finish. Okay, so the thing is, and I want you to recognize this already, we're talking about the miracle card, but we're also, here's the fable that's in the book. It's the full fable. When you get the card deck, in the card deck, it's like this much of a paragraph, because it's the abbreviation, right? So it's an encapsulated version. So when you read the full fable, you're getting a totally different experience than you would if you just read it as a small blurb, like a legend, okay? So the first impression of the full fable, which you can read on your own, the fable tells us that miracles happen when we're in our highest integrity, when we make a rational decision to do the honorable thing. Elevated thinking affects our emotional state, which empowers us. As we are energetically led through the yellow chakra toward the 4th chakra, the chakra of the heart, which is the 4th, we're offered the miracle of health and joy. And then it talks about setting your intention for the week. So I'd like you to breathe and drop your shoulders. And what I want to say to you is that okay, the 3 words you wrote down. Got it? Okay, I'm going to come back to that in just a second. I would encourage you to write them down, even if you have to pause this, or instead of just thinking about them, write them down so you have them. Write them in the book. Okay. This week is all about raising our thought process to a new level. So this is setting your intention for the week. Think about just thinking of more elevated solutions can change your reality. When you build your foundation in that red chakra, and you address your emotional life in the orange or 2nd chakra, it's in the yellow or 3rd chakra that you learn how to choose solutions. Think about that. This week, set an intention to make uplifting decisions. Ask yourself, what can I do that will reflect the highest integrity and inspire others and myself? So go back to this idea of choosing solutions. Instead of reacting, we look at the idea that this is choice, that I can actually feel fear. I can feel that I want to run. I can feel that fight or flight. I can have that reactionary feeling, but I can choose how I'm going to direct that energy for myself and where I'm going. Did you get your 3 words? Okay. So what I'd like you to do is take these 3 words and look at them very closely and recognize that these words represent you and what you think of in your brain this week around this concept of miracle. Now, it doesn't matter what you wrote. You know, on one thing I wrote bottle. You know, so it can be bottle. Maybe it's bottled up. Maybe it means it's time in a bottle. Maybe it means, so the idea is, if you're stuck with a word, if you're stuck and say, I don't know what this means, go to the thesaurus and remember you're in resistance to it. So look up the antonym and see what the opposite message is for you. I'm also going to encourage you to take time on Wednesday and do this with the journaling journey. I'd like to hear your feelings and thoughts about some of these. My question for you is, in terms of your solo exercise, excuse me, I'd like to really get an idea of how you created your miracle box, if you actually did it. And that's going to be in the solo exercise on page 77 in the book. And for now, let's kind of tap out with the idea of stepping into yourself. And I'm going to modify this meditation, the Friday meditation. And what I want to invite you to do is, if you have the cards, look at the image. Okay. If you don't have the cards, just contemplate the idea of miracle. Your solar plexus is your 3rd chakra. And I'm going to give you an energy to set your week, which is in the Friday meditation moment. Today, begin to open yourself to the idea of receiving a message in a contemplative state. Sometimes miracles occur when we're doing the opposite of what we think we should be doing. For example, volunteering when you think you should be looking for a job. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this lead people to the miracle they seek. Don't look for the reward, but instead revel in your alignment with spirit. Self-esteem is the gift. Continue to serve others, and your life will prosper beyond your wildest dreams. Sun Sparkler lends magic to integrity and honesty. So this week, what are the most honest and integrous thoughts you can have? And with that, I'm going to see you next week when we speak of the mighty topaz and the fable itself of mighty topaz and the concept of enlightenment. I will see you next week. And remember, write down what came forward to you in the comments below. I'd love to comment and hear from you. Thanks.